Alright kids, today for you I have a very exclusive, important, and exciting, wonderful album review for you in the name of Obsequiae's The Palms of Sorrowed Kings. Forthcoming exclusive listening on my behalf because main member of Obsequiae is a dear, dear friend of mine. So I appreciate the chance to get to review this ahead of time, Tanner, so thank you. So new album coming out on 20 Bucks Spin, November 22nd. Pre-orders are up now. The skinny on it. Here's the thing about dissecting or describing or reviewing music that we love. As metalheads or as like art fanatics, I think we just gobble up as much as we can, and we just kind of forget sometimes to just kind of peacefully enjoy things one at a time, rather than just like dissecting things, spreading them out on a table and understanding them piece by piece, and then just pushing them all back together and shoving them back up into the collection like I am so very guilty of doing. And so a lot of times I think you forget sometimes that a record deserves more of your attention, and maybe sometimes can actually defy being able to be broken apart and understood and just easily consumed in that manner. And this is a band that consistently puts out albums that do that for me. This is the third album in the discography, if you don't count the demo, which was also great. And I've been a rabid fan of Tanner's music for many, many years. So let's just get the skinny out of the way. First of all, third album, it is a lot more mature, I think, than the past two. I really think it's exciting to hear the Obsequiae sound, which is so different from everything else that you hear, finally really coming to a solid footing and sounding, I think, the way it always should have. That's not to say that the previous albums are not amazing and great, and I love them for what they are, but what this record is what Obsequiae is in its best form. So what initially I think see upon first listen, and you can listen to two songs on the Bandcamp page, I urge you to do so, is that I guess the music is a lot more complex. There's a lot more complexities added with the new drummer Ian McCluskey, who you might know from Vex. Ian's drumming adds I think his musicianship and writing on the drums just matches the guitar work at its level. And having those two main elements of the music in such harmony and playing off of one another, and just having these voices speak so well to one another and to the listener, is just a completely immersive experience. And it's just amazing to, like, I guess one of the things that I love about metal is that it's complex and it's interesting, and it challenges my mind to grow, to be better at listening to that kind of music. And this is one of those albums that kind of reaches those outer limits of that aspect of my listening. And that's what I've always loved about Obsequiae. For some reason, the guitar work and the interplay between the harmony of both guitars and the bass and the vocals and the drums has always just been so ornate and just shimmering and fantastic in such a complex and beautiful way. It's not like most other metal bands where you'll hear a main riff decorated on top of by another harmony on a guitar or a bass. This is two uniquely, really every instrument is just doing its own thing, and frequently just, coinciding here and there and just flowing so brilliantly and vibrantly to create this such a vivid atmosphere. As you'll see on the cover of the album, there's castles, and it has a lot to do with hearkening back to a time, sometimes referencing a little bit of Roman mythology. There's a song, Carries into Eternal Streams, which talks about that. But it uses that kind of mythology to harken back to a time when I think people were perceived as having such a more austere and maybe all-consuming reverence for their surroundings and the natural world. And that is something that I think Tanner is trying to take you back to. And it works so well because, first of all, it removes you from the current reality, but it borrows from a previous reality rather than just conjuring up something different like demonic forces and things like that we usually talk about in metal. So it's so interesting to hear a musician reference some of the things that's going on in his head and kind of use the past metaphorically to illustrate those to the listener. And like that aspect of the music is painted so well by the interlude tracks between the metal songs. First of all, the metal does that really well, but there's a harpist who does these harp. It sounds sometimes like acoustic guitar, so I think some maybe not privy listeners might think that it is an acoustic guitar or like classical guitar or something, but it is a small harp. And those interludes just do so much, first of all, to kind of be a palate cleanser and just kind of give you a moment of rest after consuming so many notes and such complex and beautiful, illustrious music. It gives you a moment to just kind of really just sit back in awe at this wonderful world that you're experiencing through the music. And it's just that just lends such a tasteful and perfect aspect to the overall experience that listening to Obsequiae is. So like I said, all of the instrumentation is just insanely amazing. The songwriting is just flawless. It's really hard to describe music that is beyond any level of compare that I can even offer. It's hard to review an album that I am just so impressed with and I have so few references for. So I'm trying to tell you how much more you can get out of this record than you will any other record. I've been enjoying the hell out of it for a couple of months now, and like I seriously listen to it every single day, and I never get tired of it. It's such a immersive and complex experience to listen to that it just has so much more to offer, and it isn't something that grows old on you. And I would imagine even if after getting a copy of this, a month or 3 months go by and you finally put it down, come back to it a month later, I'm sure it would just feel fresh and amazing. And that's really, Obsequiae's music has always been that way to me. I do keep it in pretty constant rotation, but sometimes there'll be a lull for a couple of months where I don't. In fact, when I put on an Obsequiae record, even though I do fairly often, it's a special experience. It's not something I tend to listen to just casually. It is so decadent and so enjoyable, and it just offers so much more than just your ordinary headbang or whatever it is, that it isn't something that I can just consume casually like a lot of other metal. So I think that calling it castle metal, which a lot of people do, is pretty reductive, given that the artists involved do so much to illustrate this amazing half fantasy, half historical reality. And as you'll see with the cover artwork, this cover and the one previous, I have it right here, the Uriah of Vernal Tombs, uses cover artwork that is actually a lithograph of castle ruins, and the photos are from around the 1890 to 1910 period, around there. Some of the earliest photographs ever taken of these places, and this just speaks to how amazing the music is. It seems surreal and fantasy, but it also, as you just stare at it, it looks so insanely real. The Smithsonian Institute has a lot of photos like these album covers if you're curious to check them out. So that is the Palms of Sorrowed Kings. It is a breathtaking experience. If I've ever heard one, I hope you check it out, as well as the previous one, Araya of Vernal Tombs. Let me know what you think of the 2 preview tracks down below. And by the way, it comes out on November 22nd, 2019. So get your pre-orders in there. And if you're curious, I always get asked in all my videos, what are you listening to in the background? This is Hildegard von Bingen's 11,000 Versions, the chant for the chant for the Feast of Saint Ursula. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.